What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going over the Magister Class for Crystal of Atlan. This class is going to be the first class that actually gets his third job, as well as the first two subclasses on release of the game. His three subclasses will be the Elementalist, who is a spellcaster that plays at all ranges, the Warlock, which is more of a close to mid-range character, and then the Magician, which can also play at somewhat all ranges as well, but has more of a focus on the close to mid-range alongside the Warlock. All three of them play extremely different as well, in my opinion, so if you are a fan of Magic, this class has three different styles that should appeal to you. First, we are going to be going over the Elementalist. This class takes advantage of 3 out of the 4 elements in the game currently: fire, electric, and ice. As he's one of the squishier classes, he definitely wants to play more on the mid-range. His skills also lean more into that, allowing him to group enemies from mid-range as well as do damage from the mid to long range as well. He does have some survivability with a shield as well for one of his skills. His main mechanic will generate around his skills and being able to rotate skills very quickly. Whenever he does do a skill, he will generate a Thunder Spear. He actually has one skill as well that will generate the max amount of Thunder Spears, and whenever he uses a skill, he will also use a Thunder Spear. He can also use Thunder Spears to augment his basic attack to do more damage as well, so you could do a skill, generate a Thunder Spear, then do a basic attack, and that can also spend your spears as well. Essentially, what these Thunder Spears do is similar to your basic attack. They will be augmenting your skills to do more damage. Once you hit level 45, they will also augment your skills with a 50% chance to reduce the cooldown for that skill as well. And using the skill that allows him to get the max amount of Thunder Spears, this allows you to actually just go ahead and spam skills with a 50% chance that some of those skills that you are spamming will have their cooldown reduced a bit. This class is actually very flashy. He reminds me of Ryu Ishida from Bleach because he says Renso Tengi when he does his ultimate. It's pretty funny. This class would definitely appeal to people who like that more mid to long range casting playstyle. This class also has some skills that are able to be used close range as well, so he's not necessarily weak if you were to get up in his face, but he definitely wants to be more at the mid range, kind of poking from afar, away from boss patterns and other things that could potentially hurt him, as this class only has survivability in terms of a small shield that he can use every, I believe, 30 seconds. Next, we are going over the Warlock, which is personally going to be one of the classes that I'm actually going to be playing once the game releases in Global. Now, before level 45, admittedly, this class feels very lackluster to play, if I'm being completely honest. The class's damage is very much lacking before level 45. That mostly is because he does not get access to his damage passive. A lot of classes in this game have a passive that boosts their damage. This class does not get access to that until he actually does hit level 45. And then from there, he's actually able to build up a passive that can give him up to 30% extra damage. But it does take a while for you to actually get there, or it can feel like it takes a while for you to actually get there. The damage does feel a little bit lower compared to other classes, like, for example, Starbreaker, that gets access to her passive very early on when leveling. Now, potential Warlock mains, I know y'all might have just heard that and been like, he doesn't do that much damage early on, but I promise y'all, if y'all stick it out and get to level 45, y'all going to see why this class is one of the classes that I'm going to be playing when the game actually releases. His damage ramps up tremendously at level 45. Once he gets access to his passive, that allows him to build 30% damage. And the way that he builds his passive is actually very unique. It revolves around a mark that he actually applies to enemies as he does damage to them. And you want to use one of the skills that detonate this mark to actually build up that passive. The skill also has the skill that detonates the mark and also the mark itself. The mark itself has a 5-stack actual layer. So originally when you first plant the mark, it'll be a small ball on the enemy. It'll get bigger and bigger and then eventually glow. Once it glows and you do the detonation skill, the skill will do the most amount of damage. But the most interesting thing about this class is when building your damage bonus, because you do need to detonate the mark to actually build the damage bonus. The damage bonus lasts for about 20 seconds, and the detonation skill has about a 12-second cooldown. So if you mess up and don't detonate somebody, or if you detonate somebody that's already dead, you most likely will lose your damage buff, and then you'll need to rebuild it back up to get the most out of the class. So the main thing is being able to repeatedly apply and detonate the marks. And then in my opinion, once you actually have your 30% damage buff, then you start going for the full detonation once the mark is glowing to get the max amount of damage, because you'll be getting the full buff from your damage buff. He has a good mix of skills between skills that actually apply the mark and then skills that actually do the big chunks of damage. So in my opinion, building your 30% buff up and then chunking and using everything at your disposal once you actually have that buff is the best way to play him, in my opinion. Alongside the damage passive that he gets at level 45, he also gets access to his install form, which increases the damage of his skills, increases his attack speed, as well as turns the screen black and white and gives him wings. One of the coolest installs, in my opinion, inside the game at the moment. And alongside the install that gives him extra damage on his skills, the 30% damage buff that he gets to applying the mark, I can see this class doing big chunks of burst damage once we actually get into the end game on global. So if you like close range magic as well as a burst damage playstyle, this class is definitely for you, and is one that I'll definitely be playing once the game releases. Next, we will be overviewing the Magician. This class is actually fairly unique in my opinion in the way that he actually works. Originally, I thought the class looked pretty goofy and wouldn't have been as fun as he would have been. I actually tried him out. After trying him out, he's definitely a class that has a lot of sauce to him and is very active, and you have to be very intentional on how you actually play him and build your skill rotation in general. This class is a trickster, legitimately a real trickster. He can go invisible, he can put you to sleep, he also can put a barrier around him and shoot bubbles at you that will launch you up in the air and do damage, and the bubbles can also be done by a clone that he also can use when he goes invisible. So you can go invisible, send out a clone that will basic attack while you're invisible. If you use a skill with a long animation and then go invisible, you can actually have your clone do the skill, like he'll finish the skill for you and then do the basic attack. So you have like a lot of kind of back and forth between you and your clone, and your clone also takes aggro for you as well, so it's like a taunt. You also have another puppet that can actually taunt the enemy, so he has like a lot of utility in his kit as well as a lot of damage. It's very, very flashy, very, very cool looking, not as goofy to actually play as I thought originally would have been. And because of that, on launch, he's going to be the class that I actually take to level 39 while I'm able to actually try out classes, just to know if I actually want to play that class or if I want to play Warlock indeed, because this class surprised me a lot more than I actually thought he would. His mechanic is going to be around the cards that you actually see on the bottom of the screen. Originally, every time you swap out one of the cards, he will be replaced with one. Once you hit level 45, he pulls them in pairs. So if he pulls a red, he'll pull 2 reds. If he pulls a yellow, he'll pull 2 yellows. And if he pulls blue, he'll pull 2 blues. Now, what these cards actually do is the blue actually stacks up to 40 times. The only way to rotate the blue cards are to do basic attacks. As you do basic attacks, you rotate out the blue. The blue will give you a damage buff as well as a cooldown reduction buff as well. And again, it stacks up to 40 times. The yellow is actually able to be rotated with certain skills. Some skills will rotate the yellow, and when you actually do rotate the yellow, those skills that you use the yellow on will get somewhat of a cooldown reduction as well on them. And the red will give the skills that use red a damage bonus based on how much red the skill actually consumes. So if you have a full bar of red, that skill will get the max damage bonus. The main thing about this class is rotating up to you can get the full 40 stacks of the blue buff for cooldown reduction as well as damage, and then you want to be using the yellow and blue essentially to kind of rotate short cooldown skills and get your skills cooldowns as low as possible. Fill up a full bar of red and then unleash your red skills to do the most amount of damage, and just kind of be rotating between all 3 of these as efficiently as possible. That is what makes this class extremely interesting to me, in my opinion. It relies a little bit on RNG, so your damage could potentially be lower or higher depending on how lucky you are in pulling the cards and what cards you pull and what skills are actually on cooldown when you pull those cards. So it's very RNG dependent, but to me, I think that's actually something that's very interesting, and trying to find a way that can make it a little bit more consistent will be something that I'm actually very interested in when the game actually releases in global. That being said, y'all, that is it for the Magister Overview for Crystal of Atlan. This is more of a longer one, but this class has a lot to it. A lot to these classes here on the Magister side. You Magic lovers are going to be eating lovely when the game actually releases on global. I'm going to be one of them, probably playing either the Warlock or the Magician as one of my alt classes. Thank y'all for watching. As always, if this video helped you out with picking a class for the Magister, definitely let me know by either letting me know in the comments or dropping a like on the video. Either one would help me out tremendously. Again, thank y'all for watching, and peace.